Hey everyone, and welcome back to Scatterbrained, where we talk about the most interesting things you may have never thought about. I've known about today's topic for several years. However, due to our current pandemic, many historians, scientists, YouTubers, and whatnot have been looking at pandemics throughout history, which made me revisit a familiar plague-inspired place, the Sedlec Ossuary. Now the most popular tourist attraction in the Czech Republic outside of Prague, the Sedlec Ossuary is known as the Bone Church, or the Bone Chapel. With the rise of macabre and dark tourism, the Sedlec Ossuary has been the place to visit. Oh yeah, and the Instagram algorithm loves the Chapel of Bones. But my interest is not really about the Bone Chapel. Yeah, it's really cool, but when I studied in Prague, I actually didn't want to go to the Sedlec Ossuary. It was known to be a huge tourist spot, and I didn't want to spend time with a bunch of Americans taking uncomfortable, awkward, cringeworthy selfies with dead bones. Rather, I'm interested in how the bodies got there in the first place. Who are these bodies? Where did they come from? We see body counts about the plague in history book, but the ossuary serves as a visual reminder of the dead. But aside from the Black Death, what can these bodies and remains tell us about the world these people lived in? Well, I have good news for you. Since 2016, there has been an ongoing restoration of the church, cathedral, and the grounds, which reveal about the dead laying there, medieval Christianity, and the people who lived there. And man, am I excited to talk to you about these exciting discoveries. Let's take another look at this one-of-a-kind cathedral. The Sedlec Ossuary is right outside the Czech town of Kutná Hora and is about an hour train ride outside of Prague, and the grounds are home to about 40,000 to 70,000 skeletons. Recent archaeological evidence shows that the cathedral was actually a burial site for thousands of years, but for right now we'll start at the 13th century. Unverified local histories claim that the local abbot was sent from Bohemia to Jerusalem, where he obtained soil from the Holy Land. Some accounts claim that it's the Holy Land, others say this site was home to Golgotha, which is said to be where Jesus was crucified. Nevertheless, the abbot blessed the church grounds with the dirt. And because this was holy dirt, the Sedlec Church became one of the most sought-out burial sites in the area. Anyway, flash to about 30,000 bodies later, and there just wasn't enough room in the crypts and graveyards, so something had to be done. This is around the year 1400, but archaeologists and historians are hesitant to verify this date. Local history claims that in the 15th century, a nearblind monk was summoned to exhume decomposed bodies, clean off, and then organize the bones. But what we do know is true is that the ossuary became filled with clean, neatly filed bone pyramids. So essentially all these bones were chilling out in the lower ossuary until the 19th century. Enter František Rindt, a local woodworker. In 1870, the Schwarzenberg family hired Rindt to decorate the lower cathedral with the bones from the bone pyramid. He was responsible for the beautiful design of the bones in the lower cathedral. He also bleached and cleaned the bones before working with them, which is why the ossuary has a uniform look. And man, what a work of art it turned out to be. One of the highlights is the chandelier, which contains almost every bone in the human body. Rindt's work also includes the Schwarzenberg coat of arms to its finest details. Flash forward some more to the 21st century. Due to the cathedral's increasing tourism, a complete restoration took place starting in 2016. The team did an amazing job of documenting their work throughout the past few years. I'll link the videos in the description box below. A lot of the restoration was to prohibit further damage of the bones and the cathedral. The restoration team cleaned the bones, which were already starting to show signs of moisture buildup and wear. Digs also took place outside of the graveyard. Archaeologists found human remains from the medieval period and also dating back to 2000 to 2200 BCE, revealing that this was a burial site for thousands of years. In 2019, archaeologists began to dismantle the first bone pyramid. The process is amazing and so well done. As I mentioned, I really recommend you check out the video series I link below, as they go into great detail about this. And while a lot of information is still being uncovered, in November 2019, the archaeological team reported 34 mass medieval graves containing a total of about 1,200 bodies. The 34 mass graves were under the pyramids and the ossuary, which according to archaeologists reveals that when the ossuary was built, builders did not even know that mass graves were there. So what's with all the bodies? I mean, 1,200 people were put in mass graves. Well, according to Czech archaeologist and member of the research team, Jan Frolik, About half, 600 of these bodies were victims of the 1318 famine, and the other 600 were victims of the 1348 Black Plague. And think about it. In a small Bohemian town in the 14th century, 600 was a lot. 1,200 was a lot. Other interesting tidbits of information include that there were 30% more men than women that were excavated from the site so far. This was because the Sedlec Ossuary was within a local mining community. Froelich reveals that, otherwise, I would say it was a typical medieval society, judging by the injuries and illnesses reflected in the bones. So there were common fractures of limbs, some of them badly grown together. As for the illnesses that can be detected this way, we have reported tuberculosis and meningitis. There's so much information developing, and I think it's fascinating. This is one of the largest archaeological digs in Europe, and historical truths can finally be asserted. Or at least we could be a lot more certain of them. Another goal of the restoration is to make the site more tourist-friendly while preserving the chapel and grounds. As of January 1st, 2020, you need to obtain a permit to take photographs of the chapel. Locals and preservationists were worried that all the Instagramming was harmful towards the grounds. There were reports of people dismantling and kissing bones. This is the reason I didn't want to go when I was studying in Prague. I find that behavior not only disrespectful, it's just tacky. So I'm glad to hear that people are doing something about it. Sure, I want cool pictures of bones too, but I would rather admire an interesting piece of history and, well, a beautiful piece of art. While researching this video, I found it difficult to find historical fact. Almost every Google result is from a tourist blog digging the bone decorations. But look at the history of the Sedlec Ossuary, and you'll find that this unique place serves as a window into European culture and history. Yes, the artwork is amazing, but it's so much more than that. It tells stories of the past from thousands of years ago, to the medieval era, to today. I'll leave you with a quote from Sedlec Ossuary's Instagram. Those who travel here to experience it in person may find it creepy or macabre or even morbid due to the heaviness of death contained within. But it is actually a very peaceful and pious place, intended to remind us to live our life to the fullest.